Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks very much for joining us. It's a really good time of day to be doing it because I think most people have had a full-on day at school in the dark and the rain. However, sunshine is on the way in more ways than one because we're joined by Chris Dyson. So very quickly, my name is Phil Denton, and I'm going to be speaking with Chris tonight. Hopefully, I'll be speaking a lot less than Chris will be because you're all tuned in to hear from him. Chris is really unique, I think, as a head teacher. I'm not just saying that because you're here, Chris, but really unique in the fact that you are, by your own admission, I've seen when I've been reading up on some of the various news articles you've been in, as somebody who's loud and over the top, which is great. And quite often you see people fit into a head teacher role that might think, how do you act as a head teacher? And sometimes people subdue their own personality, but that certainly isn't something that Chris has done. And I know beyond what he'll speak about this evening, gives so much of his time and his energies and resources and great skills back to his school, all for the benefit of the children that he works with, which is just it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see that, and really life affirming when you read what you do, Chris. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our webinar this evening and say a very good evening to everybody that's joined us, and to Chris. So very warm welcome, Chris. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Phil, and thanks to all you guys that have joined us this evening for us to talk a nice bit of education as we run up in the best half term of the entire year. You know, as we build up to Christmas and giving opportunities to children that our own children might not be able to have and things. So,
oh, brilliant! Yeah, it is, and it's sometimes you can assume that all children are desperately looking forward to this time of year, but they might not be, and the school environment is crucial to that. And you've created a really special school environment, and that's clearly visible from the people that come to visit, that talk about it. But before we get to that, could you tell us a bit about your background and what kind of led you to be this role of the head teacher of the school?
So, well, I was quite late into headship. I was one of those people that wanted to do everything the best, being the best classroom teacher and the best key stage leader and the best deputy head before moving into headships when I was 44 years old. So I wanted to really earn my stripes on the shop floor before taking that into headship. Now, I've got some great friends who are head teachers that are in the late 20s, early 30s, but that route wasn't for me. I was fortunate enough that I won Teacher of the Year back in 2004. And one of the best stories of that is that one of my little girls in my class, when I won that lovely award, is now my assistant head and my year 6 class teacher here. So all the things that we did for times tables and maths, she could really sort of embed in our school and things. I'm one of the few head teachers who absolutely love Ofsted, in a sense that anybody who criticizes or says you need to do things different, that gets me adrenaline going so I can get action plans and move things forward. And I'd done 8 years as a deputy at a similar deprived school in Leeds, and we had the Ofsted visit, you know, and we got good with outstanding features, just missed the outstanding, but I thought I can't hang around for another 5 years. I'm 44 now, so now's my chance to go into headship. And I saw one that came up at Parklands at Seacroft in Leeds, and I rang up to get the information, but there was trying to not dissuade me from applying, but they made it clear they wanted an established head teacher. They were offering a £25,000 sort of bonus to get an established head in. And me being me, I thought, that's the job for me, not for the bonus money, obviously, but I thought I like a challenge. There'd been 150 fixed term exclusions that year. Someone actually did a troll on it and actually said, oh, we can only actually find 110. But that was before my time. I don't know what happened with the other 140, but that's with my governor's remit to reduce the sort of numbers. But I thought, I want to go to this school. It had a padded cell. It had an exclusion room, which you can't see these cameras behind me, but it had the 18 naughtiest kids in this room with one teaching assistant. So all the kids wanted to get in there. And then about 2:30 in the afternoon, one would get dragged out and put in the padded cell, and the others then calmed down for the last 20 minutes of the day. There were more kids outside on the roof playing TIG on the roof and things. And that's why they wanted a more established head. I'd never been a head before. I'd just been an effective deputy and a pretty good classroom teacher. But I like challenges like that. And then luckily enough for me, nobody else applied. Nobody else applied for the role. So they had to take a bit of a gamble on myself, you know, and I came in and people were saying, for your first headship, you can't have a school like that. But I set kids challenges all every day and things. So I thought I've got to challenge myself because there's always positives to be taken out of anything. And I thought if it all goes pear-shaped, because the authority had already graded the school inadequate, which again, I saw the positive of that. I thought, brilliant, I get an extra 20 days support from the authority a year, which is free and things. But I thought I want to go for this because if it all goes pear-shaped, as I said, I can always go back to being a deputy and things. But it was the first time I was able to write my own checks. Well, not for myself, obviously, but write checks for schools and things. So the first thing I did, I thought, well, 150 exclusions, 5 head teachers that previous year they'd had, so 5 different behaviour policies, different way of doing things. Nobody knew if they were coming or going. So I came and I thought, I'm going to flip all that upside down because shout is not working. I ripped out the padded cell that cost £15,000 the year before. And I put a music sound system in. So we play music 24/7. And again, that is for when children are walking from A to B, they're not pushing and shoving. They're not, you know, having inappropriate chats. They're singing along to my playlist. Now, I like to think well-being of my staff is sort of one of my strengths, but the only 2 things in life that they don't like is, 1, I'd never let anyone touch my playlist. I say, if you want your own playlist, you go and get yourself a headship. And 2, when it snows, because when it snows, we stay open because I've got to open those kitchens to give the warm food and things. So whereas in the past you saw the snow coming down, you're thinking, oh, probably going to be off tomorrow. Then my staff know, you know, we'll be in at 10:30, 11 o'clock and things. So that was the sort of background. I was sort of ended up being in Parklands. And one of the things that I loved about the school, you know, it's on one of Europe's largest council estates in Seacroft. And it had 85% pupil premium when I started. And as a child myself, I didn't have a dad at home. I had a beautiful mum, grandpa, brother and sister. And although we lacked things on money, we were built on love. You know, love was bestowed everywhere. And when you don't have money, you don't miss money. But I remember, you know, when I was 10, 11, loved playing football, you know, because a football £1.99 or something them days, everyone could afford a football. And I remember signing for my first sort of team, but then I had to leave that because my mum couldn't afford the £2 a week subs and things. And it sort of broke my heart then. So when I came into Parklands, my own children now, within in normal ways, whatever they sort of want in life, they can have. When you're on holiday in France or something, you get a knock on the door and it's Amazon delivering your daughter some more reading books because she's run out, you know. I didn't have that growing up. So when I came into Parklands, I thought, I want all the kids in this school to have the same opportunities and the same things that my kids get at home and things. And that was sort of one of my main drives sort of behind it. And I'm sure we'll be talking later about how I set about them bringing in an unprecedented £500,000 a year I bring in from investors and sponsors and things to make sure everything that these children want, every single year 3, year 4, year 5 and 6 all get totally free residentials, free water bottles, every single experience they have is free. My own daughter came to this school, which for the community had a huge big tick to it. And for myself and my wife, it saved us absolutely thousands through primary schools because we didn't have to pay for absolutely anything and things. So I'm sure we'll come on to that in a bit, Phil.
Yeah, no, was that what drove you to have these sort of set of values and that vision? Was it your was it your childhood? Was it something when you were going through school? Was it professionally? What was it that sort of clicked for you and think that's what schools should be based on? They should be based on freedom of opportunity and the love that you talk about so often.
Because as I said, although we didn't have money sort of growing up, we had lots of love. So I didn't miss out on the money things. But then when you see your own two children that they want Christmas list, the longest Christmas list you've ever seen in your life, and they're going to get 80% of them, then I thought, well, these kids are like me, you know, and it doesn't sit pretty with me that, you know, my kids can have whatever they like in life, whereas these kids who are just as beautiful and just as hardworking don't actually have anything. And it was that very first Christmas in 2014 when I walked around saying, who's seen Santa this weekend? Who's seen Santa? And I found about 5 children in my entire school that had seen Santa, because there's no grottos in Seacroft. You've got to go all the way into town. You know, if you've got a family of 4 or 5, you know, they can get to town, but then you're queuing up for hours on end, paying £8 a child to get something cheap and plastic. So I pulled my senior leaders in that night and I said, do you know what? It breaks my heart this. I'm going to be sat at Christmas, you know, drinking, eating, whatever I want. My kids are going to be having whatever they want. And these kids are going to absolutely have very, very little and things. So we're going to open school up on Christmas Day. So when we get home that night and we're all tucking into his feast and things, we'll think, actually, we've done something really great today. And my SLT said, nobody will do Christmas Day. And you have to listen as a leader. And they were right. Nobody will do Christmas Day. So I said, the next day, I've got another idea. And they said, what's that then? I said, we're going to open Christmas Eve. And we're going to have a Christmas Eve or a Christmas Eve do. Because people want to do it, because luckily enough, I had 4 NQTs. And part of their NQT standards is they had to do something for the community. I said, I've ticked you off that box straight away. So I had the staff in there, I had the parents in there, and I just wanted 200 simple selection boxes, which the great guys at Tesco and Asda gave me. But then a great chap called Mike Harvey from Business in the Community got wind and said, look, we deal with businesses all the time. We'll get you 200 presents. So, and these presents were coming through, you know, £10 presents, like, you know, a football, which I adored, you know, reading books, dolls houses, you know, so everything for every single genre child, whatever they fancied. Football kits were coming in, cricket bats. So basically I ended up with about 400 presents. And then we opened up on that Christmas, and we had 250 people that came in. Got Santa obviously in from the North Pole to come down and see them and things. And year on year, this has just grown and grown and grown now, so that now we do 800 Christmas Day dinners for the communities, grandmas, aunties, uncles, cousins that come. And I remember that first Christmas, a couple of my staff saying, there's kids at the door that don't even come to our school. What should we do? I said, Santa don't turn anyone away. Go and get them selection boxes out. They can have those and things. So, and, you know, to tap into businesses, Christmas time is the time to hit them, because guilt money, they want to do something special and things. And as I said, now we do 800. I've got businesses that the only staff that get paid for it are my kitchen staff, because obviously they're on minimum wage. But I get a company to sponsor and to pay those. And plus they're here from about 7 o'clock in the morning, because I've got to do all the turkey and things, but I'll come on to that in a sec. And a company pays for snow machines. We had real life unicorns walking around the hall last Christmas. Reindeers outside, and you've got these big hard year 6 lads walking up going, look at them donkeys with sticks on their head. And it's like, they're not donkeys, they're reindeers. You know, they thought they were fictional as well. And as I said, the only fib I ever told the children was, it was that first Christmas and they were having the turkey, and they're like, we don't like turkey. We don't like turkey. So I said, it's not turkey, it's chicken. And it all just flew out then and things.
Yeah.
So, as I said, to tick them out for the community, it's actually grown so much now that I'm putting together my sort of 20 days of Christmas, where there's something special on every single day through Christmas. We're one of the few primary schools that allow children to wear Christmas jumpers every day. We'll recycle the Christmas jumpers to make sure everybody's got one, because as a parent, And as members of staff, there's nothing worse than going out and paying 18, 19 pounds for a jumper now, and you can only wear it one day and things. So we say you can wear it all through the Christmas time. But, you know, the people we've got booked in, we've got a Yorkshire opera singer coming in. We've got the fantastic rock kids coming in. I've got a band, City Lights, that are playing O2 Arena that night, and they're coming into school to play a set. And we've got, what else have I got on my list? We've got a full pantomime from M&M Productions that are coming in. Northern Ballet, you know, as I said, although I love my football and my cricket, it's about giving the children different experience of culture. And that's, as I said, why we get the opera singer in, the orchestra in and things. But we work very closely with Northern Ballet, where, believe it or not, I'm actually on their sort of interview panel when they interview their new Northern Ballet dance teachers that come around schools. And they love our sort of Christmas so much that they send about 15 people for 18 hours to rebuild the exact stage that they have at the Leeds Grand Theatre, where it's about 40, 50 pounds a ticket. And they build the entire stage in our school hall. And then we have a 3-course meal, and then parents and all the children come along. And this is on a Saturday during Christmas as well, where everybody comes along and gets to experience a ballet and things. So
That's
again,
amazing.
just giving them that cultural sort of capital. And, you know, that if you live in the Seacroft, as I'm sure a lot of people on our sort of chat here today, how many people get to go and see a ballet? It's seen as really elitist, middle class, you know, so we've got to bring those things into school and things to give the experience.
So when you started then, when you went into Parklands, was that a vision that sort of evolved, or was that from day one you thought I need to change the cultural capital of these children, for want of a better phrase, or the experiences that broaden the horizons of these children? Was that from day one, or is it something that kind of dawned on you as you rose in place?
Breaking down barriers. I never came in thinking I'm going to open school at Christmas and things. That's just came about just by walking about early December and thinking, wowzers, you know, it's every child's right to see Santa. One of my big non-negotiables was I wanted every child to have a free residential. That was my first drive, because, as I said, little growing up, you know, we used to really enjoy a day out to Cleethorpes, but we certainly never, I personally didn't go abroad till I was 22. You know, we occasionally managed to get to Tenby in Wales for 4 or 5 days, to Newquay. But our holidays were basically one-day sort of events. But then I remember when I was in J4 in my day, and for those younger viewers on there, that's year 6. When I went, I was in J4 year 6, and we went for a weekend residential where we went caving, we went canoeing. It was about being away with friends and things. Oh, I've gone tingling now. It was the best holiday I'd ever had. And we only got that because my grandpa just, you know, gave a lot of things up himself to make sure that he could afford this £50 or whatever it was then, for us to experience this. And I thought, I'm going to make sure every child gets this residential. And it started with getting funding for year 6 to go, and then year 5. But now, as I said, I've got different businesses on year 3s, 4s, 5 and 6s all get to go. In fact, year 4 gets to go on 2 in the year.
Yeah, we've already had a question here from Katie just saying, can she visit at Christmas? So
I've known Katie for ages on Twitter. This is the first time we've virtually met and things. So.
Yeah, that's great. It's a sort of thing you think about your own kids and you think, gosh, what an experience to be having in the day to day when they're coming to school. There's far too many kids that sometimes people could say it's because of whatever pressures we have from outside, that you can't offer these things in school, and school might be prohibitive to some children. So how do you got the experiences, you've got the big events, you've got the themes that go on. How did you get your staff to really come along with you with that vision? Did you have to, was there much work? Did you have any of those people in the staff room who were like, this will never work, we just need to do what we were doing before, or was it pushing on an open door for you?
So again, leading from the front, you know, I weren't delegating out saying you're lot of doing Christmas, you know, I'm going on holiday and things. So it was leading from the front. As I said, I was blessed that I had 4 NQTs at that time that I knew I could sort of tap into and say, here we go, this is your community, tick here. And at that time, I'd been running Pudgy Juniors football team for 10 years. from my own son's team, from under 4s up to under 14s are on that. So I had lots of parent volunteers that sort of loved the idea of helping out, you know, over Christmas and things. So my Santa came from, was a relative, should we say, one of my dads from my Pudgy Juniors contact. So I knew I had enough people, but then other staff, so I thought, well, we'll pop into school for a couple of hours and things. And always offering half a day loo day or a full loo day, you know, if we come into these events, always sort of helps and things. So yeah, but as I said, it's so established now that people are going on rotas and things, saying, well, we'll do this day, you do that day and things. So, and
I guess it's something as it evolves over time, you have staff that know what you do, know what the school's all about. So your recruitment must be, how do you find that? I mean, I've got a great question here from Helen, but just how do you find that in terms of recruitment? Do you find that that's really helped, having that there? Has it changed it? Have you got different sort of people applying for the school than you had before?
Well, it's a funny one because I've only had 3 staff that have left in nearly 10 years. So everyone sort of has stayed because the loo days really help. I've just seen a question flash up, how big's the school? I started with 240 pupils, but now we're up to 394 and things. Now, as a result of that, because I've got waiting lists of 40, 50 for every single year group. I had 160 people apply for reception this year, even though we only could take 60 and things. So people want to come to the school because they know the experiences they're going to sort of get and things. But as I said, recruitment is not an issue that I've really had to worry about because the only people that have left have moved on to senior leadership team positions and things. So
yeah, brilliant. And Helen's asked here. She is an SBM and keen to get local companies involved. How did you reach out to them and get them involved?
So you've got to make connections. You've got to make partnerships and things. What you can't do is you can't just send a blanket email out to every single company that's in your sort of vicinity. It is a lot easier for myself because I'm in Leeds, for schools in Birmingham, Manchester, Nottingham to a certain extent, because there's major national and multinational companies based in these city centres. So all these companies have a business community officer now. So the idea is you just go on a simple Google search, the big companies that are within a 5-mile radius of you. Now, I've got Leeds City Centre that's only 10 minutes away, so I've got all the big businesses on my doorstep. And then you start finding that person, inviting them into school. I invite them into school and I show off my niche. And my niche at the school is maths, times tables. When I tell you that my little 5-year-olds in year 1 all know the times tables, well, by Easter, they'll know the times tables up to 12 12s, like that, as quick as I can click my finger. Now, when they're coming up to Seacroft, and it looks like a concrete jungle, and it looks like the worst place you've ever driven through in your life. And then suddenly seeing these little 5-year-olds blitzing out 6 9s, 54, 7 8s, 56, 12 4s, 48. You know, they're like, whoa, my God, they're sharp. And you involve them, right? Have them a game. This is live in assembly. You know, the kids' parents are in there. And you know, and getting your parents to do assembly, I get 160 parents in every Friday to come along and things. But then they think, so the bankers, I said that correctly, the bankers or their accountants and things, and they go, oh, they'll think, oh, I'll let them win the first couple. And then suddenly they're just blitzing them out. And then when you get into year 4, you say 6 8s and they want the answer 52. You might say 10 4s and you want the answer 60, because they've got to subtract the answer from 100. You know, and for our more mature people my age, you know, when I grew up, growing up, I used to watch something called Home to Roost growing up that starred John Thor and someone called Rhys Dinsdale. Well, Rhys Dinsdale actually came into school, and Rhys Dinsdale's in one of my favourite films, ID, and is the only person who's been killed off in Emmerdale and Coronation Street as being a baddie. and he's currently directing Coronation Street. But I managed to get him up into school, and he was playing these kids at times tables, and it's on my school website and things, and he was just blown away by these kids. You know, so he became patron of a school and things. So, but going back to the sort of businesses, so involving them in, you know, get them to do sort of projects, because everyone in a multinational conglomerate, a huge business, they're all allowed 2 volunteer days a year. So although I say I bring in $500,000 a year, a lot of that is through not spending a penny on buildings and maintenance, because I get companies to come and do it. So if I've got a quote to decorate my hall for 20 grand, there's money somewhere, isn't there? Or 18 grand to decorate my gymnasium, I'd say to companies, right, will you come and do it for us? You know, so they'll send a team in 100 people. The most I've ever had on one day was 190 volunteers. Wow. And it's not just saying, right, get that done. It's about stopping every now and again to have a penalty shootout outside, or having a water fight if it's in the summer, snowball fight if it's in winter time and things. And it's about involving them and making sure that they feel valued. I do send these companies to other schools, and they might not go back because they'll say, you know, we went to school, nobody said hello to us, nobody, they just stuck us in a room, and, you know, and that was it. There was no enjoyment. Whereas these are big corporate people who want to go spend 2 days a year out of the high pressure environment that they've got, you know, dealing on computers and numbers all the time. They want to come in and engage with the kids, you know, see, they want to make a difference. So it's really making sure you value them. So as I said, my tip 1 is Google search your companies that are close and round about you, and then find that person who you need to speak to, invite them in. Most cities have a link to something called Business in the Community, BITC, where they actually work with companies to say, right, these are the volunteering activities that we've got and things. But then you find when you've made the relationship with those companies, then they'll contact you directly and say, look, it's up to you. We can either go through Business in the Community, where we've got to pay £30 per head to Business in the Community to set it up, or you can have that £300 to buy your paint, buy your scaffolding and things. So, so Business in the Community is an absolute great one. There are great charities out there. The Henry Smith charity is the only charity that will fund a school residential and things, but they only have 2 windows a year. One's round about now, December time, and then one's round about April time. And again, that's a great one to get into. But as I said, it's when you've got that relationship, it's about keeping them close, keeping them tight, inviting them to things like your Christmas shows, your carol singing, your odd assembly and things. Something simple like sending them a nice year 4 calendar that they've made, you know, and things. So, so it's all about that communication and things. So
yeah, I think it sounds like you've got some really strong networks there. And a question from Victoria here. A secondary head, so Victoria's a secondary head. What are your links like with the secondaries, and how do you, Victoria said the children must be devastated to leave you. I'm sure they are. How do you deal with that transition? And is there anything from Parklands that you've managed to support the secondaries with in developing their own cultures that's similar to your own?
So again, I'm actually pointing to our local high school, which is on my land. They pay rent to I don't get it. They pay.
Sound like a farmer.
Yeah, they're on my land. So there now. When I first started, only 50% of the kids went to that school. So I thought, it's literally the other side of our fence, and I've got the key and things. So let's start building relationship. Let's use their expertise in things like modern foreign languages, music, the science departments. Whoa, primary school science compared to secondary. We all remember the first time we walked into a secondary science lab, you know, that smell of them Bunsen burners, then suddenly there's an explosion and things. That's awe and wonder. So it was a case of getting them to go in there, inviting their principals and their CEOs into our school to say, look, this is a standard of maths we've got with our young kids, with our year 1s and year 2s, and this is what they're doing in year 4, and this is what they're doing up in year 6 and things. So then automatically they're thinking, right, well, we've got to make sure they're engaged in things like maths when they come through to us, you know. And this was my very first year that our very first kids sat the GCSEs since they've actually, sorry, that was 2 years ago that they sat the GCSEs, and this year my very first cohort, year 6, which only had 35 kids in it, 3 of them ended up going to university and things. So that made me really, really, really sort of proud and things. So again, having the partnerships, you know, with the high schools are essential. And now 98.9 of our kids go across the road to lovely Leeds East.
Yeah. And how do you get your whole school culture or in the classroom? So how do you need to do development with your staff on that? Has it happened organically, or was it quite a strategic kind of systematic approach to taking the whole school culture into the classroom?
It was basically step by step, because obviously year one was getting the exclusions down. Results were obviously rock bottom, and we didn't go from here to there in 1 year. It took 4 or 5 years to get the standard up. And again, it's getting the trust and the confidence of the teachers. That first term, when all I did was walk around in circles and circles and circles, was one, to make sure I had a sort of high presence. Two, to make sure I was seeing that the sort of behavioural issues were dealt with seriously by myself. It weren't a case of, oh, no, just ignore them and things. So it was about leading that from that front. I remember that first term, whenever I walked in anybody's room, it was like rabbits in a headlight. They thought, oh my, what's he in here for? And it took probably 2 full terms for people to, the voices not to suddenly go all squeaky, all different when I walked in. It was, so again, but it was keeping that keeping that high standards going, never believing that just because these are the most deprived kids in Leeds that they won't be able to do the times table. It's about lifting that challenge, because it's about, our kids I've got lower starting points than my own kids and a lot of our kids on here, but it's about having that drive, and as I said, with 3 of them off to university this year, that's been absolutely my cherry on the cake.
And have you found you've been asked quite a bit from organisations outside of education to come and talk and work with them on their own cultures? Is that something that's come your way? Some of the way that you've been able to bring sort of funds into the school?
Say that again, sorry, Phil, you just broke up.
Oh, sorry. Have you found that companies and organisations outside of education have come looking to you for advice on how they can bring that sort of culture into their own setups?
Well, funny enough, I work closely with the Leeds Learning Development Consortium, and I had a meeting this afternoon with them, and they basically work on sort of corporate structures. So I do presentations in front of the biggest glass recyclers in the country, which is Adar Glass, which is based in Doncaster, and it's Doncaster's biggest employer. So basically the message of how you build a team and you drive a team and you build a team on love and respect, is something that I just do them a speech now once a year for their sort of new recruits and new players, and then they give me £1,000 a term for filling up the bottle banks for them and things, which replenishes my sort of reading books. So as you can imagine, in Seacroft there ain't a lot of bookshops for children to go to and things. But as I said, it's just having that drive. It's listening to parents, because obviously when you're on an exceptionally white British estate, then they have certain barriers. So I remember my very first year, experiences are everything for me. That's why I want the kids on residential, because when you stood up 40 foot in the sky, get ready to go down a zip line and the wind's blowing and your legs are wobbling and you're like jelly, you know how to write about that when you get back in things. So I always wanted the parents to have experiences. And I remember when I took the year 5s for their first residential to Whitby, I had 4 or 5 kids rubbing their toes in sand, going, oh, don't that feel funny? I'm going, what? They're going, sand between your toes. And it transpired, even though Scarborough, Bridlington's only, an hour away from where we are, 45 minutes actually. None of them have been to a seaside. None of them had the experience eating an ice cream, building a sandcastle, splashing in the sea. So again, I got in touch with businesses, to get me coaches. So the entire school can go to Bridlington. And I go to Bridlington because I get free parking and free ice creams there and things. But, we've done that every year, bar the 2 years in lockdown. And there's never been a cloud in the sky. And I know it's grim up north, but it's been perfect blue sky and things. But it's those experiences. But there's all other issues as well that needs breaking down. Because as I said, it's very white, very working class, lower working class, very British, And I remember that I wanted my year 5s to go to a mosque visit when they were doing Islam. And I'd said to the children, right, they're going to the mosque and things, and all over Facebook that night, I was a pea lover. You know, all the parents were going to turn up outside school, eating bacon sandwiches, waving the kids off and things. You know, so I said, I always deal with things like this myself. So I sent a message out to all the parents in year 5 saying, right, if anyone, obviously I can't make you go on the RE trip. You know, it's your choice to drop out if you want, but I'll have a meeting with you. You can come in one by one. You can tell me, because I thought I'm not meeting all 80 of them in one go. And so I stayed until 7:30 that night, and I had 10-minute sections where every parent came in. Why don't you want them to go to the mosque? Because they're Christian. When was the last time you went to church? We don't go to church and things. Why don't you want to go to the mosque? You know, because we don't want to bombing. We don't, you know, all those sort of really awful, you know, not the kids' voices, but the grown-ups' voices. So I thought, it's my first tricky situation here, you know, because obviously the parents have loved what I've been doing so far, but I can't lose to this and, you know, end up taking 3 kids, you know, to the mosque when 48 don't want to go, but yet they all want to go to Bridlington in 2 weeks. So I sent a letter home on the Monday, and I said, I've slightly changed the trip to the mosque on Thursday. The coach is leaving school at 9:15. We'll get to the mosque at 9:45, and we'll be in the mosque till 11:30. And then we're going to McDonald's, and then we're going bowling, and we'll be back at school at 3:30. And everyone bar one child who was an atheist, so I didn't mind them actually.
Yeah.
You know,
I didn't like bowling, probably.
So, but all of them then suddenly went, yeah, of course you can go. Yeah. And do you know, the kids absolutely adored it. Yeah, you know, absolutely loved it. And funny, during that time, I think when I first started, I had 1% BME in school and different ethnicities. I'm up to 19% and things now. So that was really sort of helped the children to know that these kids are kids and they're beautiful, you know, and we all want the same things in life and things. So
yeah, oh, fantastic. And that's really, you know, the way that you went about that, I think a lot of people will take something from that, because we all find those situations where it might seem like a mass of people are against you, and it's to meet people one-to-one, there's quite off most of the time that has the effect that you want, doesn't it? But I like the way of I hadn't thought of that, merging the two together is a great way of doing it. Okay,
but as I said, but it was important though to, as I said, to have the one-to-one with the parents at the start, you know, not me just going out saying, look, you're all racist, you're all, you know, they are coming here, it were a case of just listening to what they're saying, you know, and saying, look, it's your right to do it. I personally want you to experience everything. And things. So, and actually when Ofsted came in 2017, one of my CP officers quite rightly had taken a print out of all the Facebook slander things that were having, and they logged it with the police. So when the Ofsted came and they said, what do you do about racial incidents? What do you do about things such as that? Then they said, we've got a police log number from when parents were kicking off and things. So
yeah, no, great. That's a brilliant example. We've got a couple of really good questions. So Katie and Lindsay, currently working on developing school behaviour policies across Torbay local authority. Exclusions in primaries are extremely high. How do we get heads to buy into more relational behaviour policies, building those relationships? Again,
it's about the child. You know, it's about knowing what's going to trigger a child. No child ever is born to think, I'm going to be so naughty, I'm going to get excluded out of school and things. There were some statistics I think I saw on Twitter last night that something like 98% of people in young offenders institutes or prison were excluded from school. So I'm not into this zero tolerance at all. Every child has a right. Now, I have actually had to exclude one in my time here at Parkinson's, which broke my heart, but I had no choice. It was violence towards my pregnant deputy head teacher when she was pinned up against a wall. And that is a time when the child needed a new start somewhere else. And to be fair, they flourished in the new start, in the new school. But it's about understanding the children. It's about seeing what the triggers are. Because if you can get behaviour right in your classroom, then the children are happy, the parents are happy, the teachers can take risks by doing more adventurous lessons, knowing that they're not dealing with low-level behaviour and things. But it's also I'm a big believer in building up on rewards. You know, you've still got to have your sanctions in place, and that is if a child can't stay in class, you know, and they want to go running around and things. And I did have that first year. That first year, you know, was tough getting my sort of message across and things. But then they know in the past that they'd be playing for the school football team that night. And it was like, no, this is now like football. You aren't being in lessons, so you've got a red card. If you've got a red card, you're banned from football for 3 games and things. And it was having that consistency, you know, having the consistency. I wanted to, as I said, lead from myself, because what had happened in the previous year with all the exclusion shows that the shouting hadn't worked. The staff felt that senior leaders hadn't been as supportive, which then escalates around the other children and things. So again, it's that leading from the front, having this clear structure where, you know, I got in trouble at school at times for being a prat, not being violent or something, but being a bit of a Jack the Lad and things. And occasionally I get told off and things. So, and children are like that in all our schools here. So we have a simple system where if they are showing low level disruption, they'll go next door to the partner class for 10 minutes. Then they come back in, and then if they crack on because they've learned the lesson there, brilliant. If they continue to escalate, I'll have one of my learning mentors that will go in and work with them. If they're still kicking off at things, then it goes to one of my senior leaders. And then if all else fails, then I'll go in and then I'll coax the child out of the room and things. But it's having those clear sort of levels of support so the teacher feels valued, you know, because again, for a teacher, you know, if you've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 kids all showing low level disruption, you can't be doing what you pay to do, and that's to teach and to inspire and things. And the teachers need to feel supported by their senior leaders that, you know, that they care. They're not just sat in their offices drinking cups of tea and eating biscuits and things. So.
And did you have any? You've got a great question from Victoria again, which I'll come to in a second. But did you have any resistance from staff in changing to that more to a really consistent behaviour approach, or was it quite seamless when you arrived?
They needed help. Make no bones on that. They were willing to try absolutely anything. If we'd had an Ofsted in that first year, would have come in, we would have been inadequate. Would have been taken over by an academy and things. So they were willing to try everything. One of the first things I did, which when I put this back on Twitter 4 or 5 years ago, they said, "Oh, unions can't have been happy about that." But I cut dinner time. From an hour to 45 minutes. I thought, right, that's 20 minutes outside playing, 5 minutes to get to the dining hall, 20 minutes to eat your lunch, and then back into class, as opposed to being outside. Because, you know, as I said, it's quite grim up north, you know, but it's either freezing cold, pouring down with rain, covered in snow, or like this summer, it's 40-degree temperature with no shade and things. So I thought, if you cut dinner time by 45 minutes, because that's our danger period, lunch times and things, then you're cutting down 15 minutes worth of sort of problems, which means then the kids are ready to learn more than, you know, them networking outside and things. So again, I said the staff, I thought, there might be a bit of resistance to losing 15 minutes off the dinner time, but because of the impact it had on behaviour in the afternoon, it meant the staff were more than happy because they weren't putting out fires all afternoon.
Yeah.
When I came for walk rounds before I actually started, I'd walk in a room and you'd have to duck because you didn't have a clue what was being thrown. And I kept on saying, why are they just all colouring in an afternoon? And that's what everyone was doing. They're just colouring in. They said, because have you tried teaching these in the afternoon? You know, it's the only thing they'll do. I thought, well, they're not doing much because they look at all. Honestly, we're like, look at the display. They were like dartboards. They had every single coloured pen sticking out of them. So I said, well, colouring in's gone because it don't engage children. You know, we've got to get some high quality lessons in. You just teach, and if people have problems, we'll come and remove. You know, not to exclude things, certainly not to put them in the padded cell or the exclusion room. You know, I'm in my office. I've got a desk over there with 4 chairs on. Kids can just sit there because when they're on their own, they've got nobody to play up to and things. Got my deputy that's got rooms in spaces in her rooms and things. So So that's basically how we did that.
And the question from Victoria here goes back to the timetables. How do you get your children to know the timetables in 2 terms? And Victoria gives the example of a year 8 still not knowing them. And do you have do you have any plans for that? Is it a specific approach that you have, or is it just relentless practice?
But timetables was my big thing as a key stage leader, as a teacher myself. I thought it was a great way to sort of bring a bit of engagement, a bit of fun, a bit of competition into the sort of maths and things. Am I the only one not frozen?
No, you've moved now.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Hello?
Yeah. Oh, I think you're back.
Am I back?
You're back.
Oh, there you go. I was just chatting. I thought nobody else is moving, only me.
Yeah.
So I said timetables was always my big thing as a teacher. I found the kids love that engagement and things. But I said when I first started, the first thing I had to do was sort behaviour out. And to sort behaviour out, all I wanted to do was walk round and round all day. I didn't mind doing my work in the evening time and things, but then I needed a purpose to walk around. So I'd say to all the children, right, this week we're doing the 4 times table. So I'd go into every class and do the 4 times table. And then as the week progressed, I'd start going in saying 4 8s, 4 3s, 4 9s. So the kids were used to chanting these times table, and the performance of the boys just went through the roof. And then to give it high prominence, I put it into our best seats in the House Assembly, where everything, even though it's literally all singing, all dancing, the assembly, it all comes to a climax with the times tables where the class champions come out, everyone stands up, claps, cheers. For those that are coming to our brilliant sort of event in November, you'll be able to see footage, because I share the footage from what happens in our assemblies. And then I had a lovely little year 1 boy called Tyler who ended up on BBC Breakfast sort of with me, special needs boy as well. And they were just blown away with how he knew they could ask him live in the studio in London any times table, just coming out with these answers and things. And the end result of that, we do helicopter rides every summer now. I get a company that sends helicopters in because of the impact that these times tables had on sort of BBC Breakfast and things. So it was, again, it's nobody's too young. Now, when they're in the maths lesson, they're not doing, in year 1, they're not doing the 7 times table. They're still in there doing the white rows. They're still doing arrays of 2s and 3s. But it's that when they're getting changed for PE, oh, we don't get changed for PE anymore. That's the best thing that happened since COVID. They come in the PE kits. But like when they get the coats on to go for afternoon play or something, and they still have class reading stories and things, but instead of doing that twice a day, they might just have some random times tables and things. But I said that the impact of that has been absolutely amazing. But of course, I made it high prominent. I made it our schools all about sort of times tables, and that really filtered through the rest of the sort of math curriculum and things.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, and it's so vital, isn't it? Everything when you're in the shop or when it's one of those things in maths that are genuinely extremely useful for your whole life if you can use them effectively. But yeah, great plug there, Chris, for our conference on 30th November at Old Trafford. Link is in the chat. That was seamless there. Excellent. Thank you very much.
And give them anyone who gets a ticket on here, let them have that early bird discount. Even though it's still gone as a special treat.
Yeah, you can. So if you want to drop me a message, I will give it a special 50% discount as well. So you'll be able to hear Chris and get free glue sticks as well. But you've got some big news as well, Chris, that I know you've shared this internally in your school. But do you want to share? Some people listening won't know and might be quite shocked, and then it'll be interesting to hear what's coming next.
Oh well, I'm leaving. My time after 10 years, my time's come to go and do what I've always wanted to do, and that's a difficult second album. I've built a school now where, I'm a mixture of Alan Sugar and not firing people. Sorry, wrong example. A mixture of Del Boy. I bring money in. I've got so much money in our school account now. It's I had to last week take on another 3 teaching assistants and spend 180 grand on a playground to balance my books. And that's even including the 5% pay rise and the TA salaries. So, and, you know, I do speeches now. I'm speaking down in Kent next week where I get, believe it or not, 2 grand a speech for school for 45 minutes. But don't worry, Katie, I'm doing you a special one free on Zoom. All right. And I've been doing this sort of same speech for 4-5 years now, and looking at myself as some kind of pop star or rock star in the sense that I've been touring the same album. I've been touring it now for 4 or 5 years, and I want that second album. And I've got a chance to move to a lovely trust. I'll name the trust on Saturday mornings, Teacher Hug Radio, with my great friend and inspiration, Paul Dix, as I promised him, because he's been a great inspiration to me. But I'm moving to a trust where basically I've got 4,000 students as opposed to 394 that I've got now, that I can take these ideas in, and I could become an influencer again. Now, succession planning is everything. As I said, I've only had 3 staff that have left in practically 10 years, you know, and I've got a beautiful, brilliant deputy who was actually a supply teacher when I first started here. And I remember saying to all my staff when I first started, look, because there was obviously 5 heads that previous year, there weren't a deputy, so there was nobody. And I said, look, I'm looking for my best 2 teacher and learning leads, because that's how we're going to change this school, teaching and learning, not through assessment, not through discipline. We're going to do it, not through behaviour policy. We're going to do it through teaching and learning. I want my best 2 teachers. And then I picked lovely Laura as one, and she was like, oh, I'm only a supply teacher. I said, you're not anymore now, you're going to be my assistant head and things. So, and I said, she's done 10 years working through now. So for me personally, it's not a loss that I'm going, because she will obviously become acting head for the next 2 terms. But that's what we're in this job for. We're here to develop people. We're here to get the very best out of people. And as I said, I've been looking for that second album to do now, to change and influence again. And without her thinking, I'm ready for headship now I'm going to have to leave. So this natural succession plan is that she'll naturally come into mine, which for staff well-being and staff morale is really, really, really important, because people don't like change. Change is inevitable. Change is needed. I personally think that if she gets the job, as she should do, full-time, then a new deputy coming in with a new outward sort of looking as important things. But, you know, I'm trying to stay positive and look forward. I don't like dwelling on things, even though, as Phil described me at the start, I am over the top, loud, showy off, everything like as I am on Twitter, I'm like in real life. But I told my staff the only leaving present I want is I just want to do on my last day, I want to do my assemblies the same as I've done it for 10 years. I don't want it to be anything about me. It's all about these kids. And then I just want to slip slowly and quietly out the door without any big fuss, without any big hoo-ha, because, you know, these kids, these beautiful staff, the parents, the community have paid me so much in kindness and developing me as a person, you know. And it'll be gutting when I go, but I don't want to be sort of reflecting now, because I've still got 6.5 weeks to go here and things, and building up that Christmas, you know. Yesterday, so I don't get too tearful and things. Yesterday, I managed to get Andy McNabb coming into my school. Now, make sure you Google search Andy McNabb after. He's the biggest selling SAS writer. He used to be in the SAS. He's had about 15 best-selling books, and he's coming into the children's book writing now. So he needed a school to come and showcase his new book. So he's coming in. I'm going to take him on, and I'm going to beat him in an arm wrestle, because that's what we set challenges for.
I can imagine I can't imagine your community and parents letting you go that quietly. I can imagine somebody like Elton John playing you out when you're walking out the door or something like that. Denise has written and said she's just trying to get her first single, but I'm sure you will, Denise. You're doing your first single now, but it's amazing, and it must be, you know, it must be bittersweet at the same time. And I was going to ask about the succession planning, and my last question was going to be around sort of top tips, but it sounds a bit crass, really. So I've just thought of a different question, really. So for your new head, for the person who's coming to take over at Parklands, what's the one? And we haven't prepared this, so, you know, what's the one bit of advice you would leave them with, just as you're walking out the door? They say to you, what shall I do? What would be the one bit of advice you give them as you hand over the reins to them?
Trust your staff, believe in your staff, because teachers are the hardest working, most dedicated people that simply change people's lives. You know, and if when you go into anything in life, you want to leave it better than when you started. And as I said, I personally wouldn't apply for my job, especially if you were on Twitter. But with lovely Laura, it's different because she was there during that bad time. All the success that we've had, not obviously as being heady, I showcase it more, but all the success that we've had, she's come up all the way through with that. So my success wouldn't have been possible without hers. And we've done that by loving, respecting, talking to people and treating people as you want to be talk to yourself and things, not belittling people. But I said, trusting everything. And she's got one key skill because she's our curriculum queen. And one thing we need to develop on our curriculum, she's been working on for her performance management for the last year. Shh, don't tell anyone. I said, don't come out with that yet. Let the governors have this as your total brand new idea to get headship. And that's to put in your DT, your art, your history and things, assessment on a one simple A4 sheet, which shows your subject and things, as opposed to pulling out reams and reams of paper and things. And that's one thing that she will really enhance the school, like I did with times tables and maths, which is embedded now. She can really take that curriculum to the next level, and fully deserved, because as I said, she's been loyal, hardworking. You learn so much through the bad times that when it comes to the good times. And for Denise, all those bad things that you've experienced coming through your career, they're not to get you down, they're to flip the other way around and think, right, how would I have wanted to be spoke to? How can I flip that round and things? And that's the real key in things. And as I said, she's seen everything from being the worst school in the country to being one of the very best in the country.
Well, I think Helen's captured that really well. Helen just said very inspiring, and it's difficult to convey genuineness. You know, you always, when you listen to podcasts or webinars, and people always will celebrate the person they're talking to, but genuinely, Chris, I think everybody who's been listening would agree that is truly inspiring, and your conviction and your passion for children is something that when we talk about a crisis of recruiting head teachers and teachers, well, some of the words that you've said tonight should just be plastered all over these DFE adverts, because they've been wonderful. Helen did say she will keep following you on Twitter as well, so that sounded like it was in doubt. And Tracy just heard there, hoping that you'll keep sharing it there. And again, Victoria, brilliant questions, is echoed the same thing. So thanks so much, Chris. I
think one of the best things we've had tonight, Phil, is because Phil had sent me just a DM last night saying, shall I send you some questions for tonight? I said, no, I'd rather do it live and cold, because then you're answering from the heart, as opposed to, having a script down that you're going to just read from and things, and it's not as sort of sincere. So, and the brilliant question you guys have asked today, and I think that's really important. But it's been absolutely beautiful, and I hope to see a lot of you on 30th of November up in Manchester with your. I'm going to get done for this, no doubt, with your special 50% discount.
Yes, special. Do you just, if you want that, just get in touch with me on LinkedIn or Twitter, and I'll send that to you, because it'd be brilliant to see loads of you there as well. Chris, amazing. Thank you so much. And really looking forward to seeing you again on the 30th of November, and then tracking your journey from there, because I'm sure the lives that you're going to influence with the trust you're going to enter into it will just magnify what you've done already. And it sounds like you've left a great legacy that'll continue to grow and develop when you move on as well. But thanks so much, Chris. It feels I wish we could go out for a drink now, actually, but it's unfortunate. I'm just going to press end meeting. Doesn't feel right, but and thanks everybody.
Hopefully in 3 weeks' time.
3 weeks' time, yeah, at Old Trafford, we can have a pint. Thanks everybody, and thanks Chris so much for being a part of it.